We finally heard from Donna Adelson herself on trial for the murder of Dan Markel. Now, her attorneys, they wouldn't say whether Donna planned to take the stand or not, so the judge pressed her directly, asking if she understood her rights and whether she would take the stand.
What is your decision concerning these two rights?
This time I don't want to testify.
Donna didn't say much, just a few sentences, but the words she uses are telling. They give us a glimpse into how Donna thinks, what's important to her, and why she didn't take the stand. Yes, by the end of this breakdown, you'll know why, in her own words, Donna Adelson did not take the stand. This is a quick look at the words of Donna Adelson, because that's what I've been doing all the way through the trial. Daily updates, looking only at the words that are used, scrapping everything else, and just looking at the words given in evidence and the words given in testimony. And I've still got one more deep dive to do into the testimony at the trial. If there's anyone's testimony you'd like me to really look into, do let me know in the comments. Also, I think there's an appetite for a lot more looking at the Adelson. So if there's anything from past trials you'd like me to look at as well, do drop your suggestions in the comments. But if you want that deep dive looking at the testimony in this trial, then do subscribe to this channel to make sure you don't miss it. It will be coming soon, so subscribe to make sure that you don't miss it. So back to Donna then. It was a day where she wasn't going to testify, couldn't answer whether she was going to testify or not. Look, the judge ended up taking matters into his own hands, and he spoke to Donna and we heard her words, which means I can break them down. So here he is, pressing Donna.
Mrs. Adelson, the question remains, as it relates to your right to remain silent and your right to testify, what is your decision concerning these two rights?
This time I don't want to testify.
Very well. As I've previously stated, the jurors will be instructed that your silence cannot be held against you in any way.
Donna said, at this time, I don't want to testify. Now, lots of people pointed out the first thing that I'm going to point out here, which is she started off with at this time. That was the very first thing she said, and she qualified it. It wasn't, I don't want to testify. It was at this time. I don't want to testify. Now, what was going on here? Why was it just at this time? Why was it not just a blanket? I don't want to testify. Well, it could be Donna wanting to have some sort of control over things here. It wouldn't have surprised me if she came in the next day and said, actually, I do want to testify. Changed my mind. She left that wide open with at this time, but it could just be that sense of control that she wants to have over everything. So I'm not giving you the answer you specifically asked for. I'm just going to tell you my answer at this time. So at this time, I don't want to testify. Also, we're going to look at more that Donna said in these exchanges with the judge. Time is a concept that comes up a lot. I don't know if you watched any of it, but I got the impression that the defense were delaying a lot yesterday and trying to make things go longer, and they kept asking for extra time. And Donna certainly mentions time in her answer. I think time was some sort of defense strategy that they were playing. She does own what she says. She says at this time, I don't want to testify. So although she's been consulting with her attorneys a lot, it's not we don't want me to testify or they don't want me to testify, or even I'm listening to my attorney's advice and I'm not going to testify. It's very much from her. This, I think, is her decision. Quite rightly, I don't want to testify. She owns it through the use of that word I. And then we've got another interesting one. I don't want to testify. The words we choose are not accidental. We choose the ones that best fit what's going on in our head most of the time. And so she says at this time, I don't want to testify. What she doesn't say is I'm not going to testify. That would be very concrete. That would be I'm not going to testify. I don't want to testify. Therefore, she's telling us that she doesn't want to testify. Not that she's not going to testify. What's important to her is not wanting to testify. That could be said for all sorts of reasons. Maybe someone does want her to testify. Maybe another time, at a different time, she will want to testify. Maybe she's said to people, I will testify, but now it's I don't want to testify. It's much less certain. It's a want rather than a I'm not going to testify. Again, this could just be leaving it open to this at this time, and maybe she didn't want to give a final answer thinking, if I change my mind, I can walk back in and just say, look, I said at this time I didn't want to. well, now I want to. So there's a whole load of wriggle room in this statement that she's given. At this time, I don't want to testify. Let's move on and hear some more from the exchanges between the judge and between Donna Adelson.
You have the right to remain silent, and the jury will be instructed that your silence cannot be held against you in determining the merits of this case. Do you understand this?
I do understand.
Do you also understand that you have the right to testify as a witness in your case in chief on your own behalf?
Yes, Your Honor, I understand.
You understand if you do choose to take the witness stand, you will be cross-examined by one of the prosecutors.
Yes, I'm aware of it.
You understand that your credibility will be placed before the jury like any other witness.
Yes, Your Honor, I understand.
Have you been able to discuss with your attorneys the two rights that the court has placed before you?
Yes, we've discussed the rights.
Okay, now I believe there Donna reveals why she didn't want to take the stand. And that is in the pattern of her answers. So the judge is asking her questions on the right to remain silent. She has a right to testify. She will be cross-examined. Her credibility will be tested like any other witness. And have you discussed the rights with your attorneys? And Donna's answers, they follow a pattern apart from two of the answers to those questions. So let's break them down. On most of them, she says, I do understand that. On the right to remain silent, I do understand that. She has a right to testify. She says, yes, Your Honour, I understand that. That her credibility will be tested just like any other witness. Yes, Your Honour, I understand that. So I understand that is the pattern there. And that is in the question. You have the right to remain silent. Do you understand that? She says, I understand that. You have the right to testify. Do you understand that? She reflects back, I understand that. Do you understand that your credibility will be tested just like any other witnesses? Yes, Your Honour, I understand that. So we've got two outlier questions there. Let's deal with one of them. It's the one where she doesn't say, I understand that. She says, yes, we've discussed the rights. Well, she was asked, it's not, do you understand that you should discuss the rights? The question was, have you discussed the rights with your attorney? And she says, yes, we discussed the rights. So she is listening to the question, do you understand, or have you discussed? And she's reflecting in her answer that she has listened to the question and she is answering the question directly. When the question is, do you understand that? She says, I do understand that, or yes, Your Honour, I understand that. When it's, have you discussed your rights? Yes, we've discussed the rights, which leaves one outlier to the pattern there. And that's, do you understand that you will be cross-examined by one of the prosecutors? And she says, yes, I'm aware of that. I don't think she wanted to be cross-examined by one of the prosecutors. In fact, I think she would have quite happily got up there and told us her own story and taken softball questions from her attorneys. But when it is, do you understand that you will be cross-examined by one of the prosecutors, instead of saying, yes, Your Honour, I understand that, she says, yes, I'm aware of that. And so therefore, breaking the pattern, and she is proving that she is listening to the questions and reflecting back the questions all the time, apart from about being cross-examined by a prosecutor. She says, I'm aware of that. Not I understand that, but I am aware of it. I am aware that these prosecutors, and we've seen the prosecutors, they are fierce. She is aware of that. And I believe that it's the thought of cross-examination, not getting up and telling her story, but the thought of cross-examination that has put Wendy off testifying. Let's hear some more from her talking to the judge.
Concerning those rights as to whether you will remain silent or whether you will testify, have you made a decision concerning this matter?
I haven't. I'm not prepared to make that decision. This decision affects the rest of my life.
Mrs. Adelson, you're in the same position as every other criminal defendant who faces trial. Ultimately, you must decide whether you will testify or whether you will not. I cannot make you testify. Your attorneys cannot make you testify. But ultimately, you must choose whether you will testify or not.
I don't have to choose. I was hoping I would have some time to speak to my attorneys.
This has already been discussed, ma'am. What is your choice?
So this was obviously earlier before she said, I don't want to testify. This was her being pushed by the judge for a choice. And Donna uses two sentences in her answers there. The first one was, I haven't. I'm not prepared to make that decision. That this decision affects the rest of my life. Now, once more, we will see she's got some ownership on it here by using that pronoun I. I haven't. I'm not prepared to make that decision. So this is about her. She's certainly in control of this, which is, look, I think Donna is very into her control, but she is in control of this, which is right. And she's signifying that by her use of the I and owning what she says. And then she says, no, I haven't made the decision. She says, I'm not prepared to make that decision. Now, that's an interesting word. What does she mean by prepared? Well, it could be they were asking for time to discuss this a little bit more. It could be that she feels that she hasn't prepared enough. She hasn't been prepared enough. She hasn't got enough information. So I'm not prepared to make that decision. You'll notice she is owning the decision. I'm not prepared to make that decision. However, is it just kind of arrogance? I'm not prepared to make that decision. You know, when someone presses you for something, I mean, normally it's less high stakes than will you go up at your murder trial and take the stand and testify. But I'm not prepared to make that decision. That means, you're trying to press me for something that I don't want to do. I'm not prepared to make that decision. Is that the use that she's got there? Is it that slight arrogance? Again, is it about control with her here? You can try all you like to control me and tell me that I need to make the decision. I'm just going to tell you, I'm not prepared to make that decision. It's not, I haven't made that decision. I haven't made my mind up yet. It's I'm not even going to get to the point to make that decision. Potential arrogance showing through there. Also, preparation. Preparation takes time, and time is a concept that comes through time and time again. Excuse the pun, when Donna is talking. Time is a concept that comes through often, as I think is a better way of saying it, when Donna is talking. I'm not prepared to make that decision. She's not got to the point yet. She hasn't reached the time yet where she's making that decision. Then she says that this bit of a stutter there, because we stutter when we're stressed. No matter who you are, you'll be stressed when you're having this conversation with a judge at the trial where you're on trial for murder. This decision affects the rest of my life. Now, there's an interesting thing that comes out. This decision affects the rest of my life. Well, does it? It might. If she thought that she could get up there and give a stellar performance and tell the truth, and then the jury would be like, oh, Donna involved? No way. That would be a decision that affects the rest of your life. But if you believed it, then that would be a really easy one to make. If you think you're on a bit of a tightrope and you don't quite know which way it's going to go, then that decision affects the rest of your life. So she doesn't back herself to get up there and tell her side of the story and for that to be believed. Again, maybe worried about the prosecutor cross-examination, that once it comes to the hard questions, she doesn't think she's going to be able to stand up. Also, the decision affects the rest of my life. So have lots of decisions here. The decision potentially to hire a hitman, all sorts of things. The whole trial affects the rest of your life, not just that decision. So she's using some personal definition there in that phrase. This decision affects the rest of my life, because while I get the fact that it's a life-changing decision, one she may regret making, it's not just that affects the rest of your life. You're on trial and there's a totality of the trial here. It's not just about this. So I believe she is weighing, should she go up and take the stand or should she not? And she doesn't back herself that if she goes up on that stand, then she is just going to give a performance which is going to lead to the jury going, yeah, this is all good. There is nothing, here with Donna. Let's just find this woman not guilty. The way she speaks from the heart is something. Decision affects the rest of my life. Again, another concept of time. The rest of my life is a concept of time. Time, big importance to Donna. Then to the next question, when she's told, every criminal faces this and you haven't, she says, I know I have to choose. I was hoping I would have some time to speak to my attorneys. So big ownership here. I know I have to choose. I was hoping I would have some time to speak to my attorneys. So again, she is talking for herself here. She is standing up and talking for herself and owning it through the use of I and putting that pronoun in there. You could say that sentence or something similar, saying, yeah, I know that, or something, but she puts I in a hell of a lot. Then she uses past tense. I was hoping I would have some time to speak to my attorneys. So this means that at this time, she doesn't have that hope. I was hoping I would have some time to speak to my attorneys. If she was pleading for time now, she may well have said it's something in the present tense. I'm hoping I can have time to speak to my attorneys. Please, can I have time to speak to my attorneys? That would be in the present tense, but no, as she's talking here, it's in the past tense. All the hope is over there. And right now here in the present tense, that's gone. I was hoping I would have some time to speak to my attorneys. And the last thing I want to point out is that speak to my attorneys. Now, I know we sometimes use speak to when we mean speak with, have a conversation, a two-way conversation. Sometimes we use speak to when we just want to say we're talking to one person. I will speak to him, and tell him off. I always think when someone says speak to, then it suggests that speak to is actually speaking to and not listening to, not hearing from. So Donna's words there just say that she wants to speak to her attorneys. She doesn't actually say speak with my attorneys and have a two-way conversation. And look, we use those almost interchangeably, but I do think they reveal something about your personality. And if you think you're going to speak to someone, you think you're going to at least dominate the conversation that you have with them. So I think, again, something there about this arrogance of Donna. We've seen this sort of controlling and trying not to be pinned down by the judge. Thinks the same thing when she deals with the attorneys. I will have some time to speak to my attorneys. And so that's the last daily breakdown on Donna Adelson and the Donna Adelson trial. You have enjoyed the content. I know that. The comments have been fantastic. As I said at the beginning, if there's any testimony from across this trial you think should be in the deep dive, then do let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so that you get that deep dive into the testimony when it lands. And also, is there any other Adelson or Adelson related things you would like me to have a look at and analyse and look at the words that are being used there? Because I think, there is mileage in doing some more of the Adelsons because it's a fascinating story. They are a fascinating family, a fascinating cast of characters. So if there's anything more Adelson related, do let me know in the comments as well. Now, neveratruerword.com is the website where you will find a whole lot more videos. I've done a lot on the Adelsons and you will find them all there. You can listen to podcasts as well, or sign up for the monthly newsletter when you get monthly tips on how to really hear what's being said to you through new ears. That's all at neveratruerword.com. And by the way, if you're on a legal team and you're thinking, man, I could do with some of this on my side, then you'll find a link there as well. I have limited availability for 2025. You can find out a little bit more by contacting me through neveratruerword.com. And I'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.